So we bought this property back in 2020. We paid 55,000. It was just at the height of everything that was going on at the time. We basically bought it completely the wrong way. We put about £15,000 into it. It was in our personal names. It was a capital repayment mortgage. We left all the money that we put into it. We got nothing back out of it. We did everything the wrong way. Everything everybody tells you not to do. All the YouTube videos, all the educators, everybody would have said, don't do it that way. Let's actually evaluate what's happened in the 4 years that we've owned the property. The property has been let the whole time that we've had it. We've literally just had a void recently because we've done a refurb on it when a change of tenancy occurred. The property, we paid £55,000 for it. It's just been valued at £70,000, so we've got a good appreciation there. We paid, including the legals, around about £15,000 thereabouts to acquire it, and we've had use of a £55,000 asset for a £15,000 outlay. It was let for £500 a month for 4 years. So we've had the rent coming in for the last 4 years. When we did a refi on it recently, although mortgage rates have gone absolutely absurdly high, we managed to release £25,000 out of it, which is paid for the refurb. So we haven't had to pay for that. The previous tenant has actually paid for that in the capital repayment that the rent is covered on the mortgage payments. And then we've had a little bit of a pot of money to put towards another project. The only downside is that we haven't been able to write off the increasing interest off against the tax with the fact that it was in our name and not in a limited company's name. That has been a bit of the downside. Other than that, and the refurb that we've had to do on it, and we put a boiler in it when we first moved in, it's been pretty sound investment, to be fair. Given the fact that in the next 5 or 10 years, it's probably going to be worth £90,000, something like that. It's nearly doubled in the time that we've owned it. It's very easily lettable. It's a 2-bed street house. Although it hasn't got a garden, which is a bit of a downside, a price point in the area, probably going to be about £575, £600 a month. It's dirt cheap. It's dirt cheap, and rental in the area is really, really, really in demand. So if you're thinking about getting into property and you think, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. We bought this when we didn't know what we were doing, me and my wife. We bought it, we hadn't had a clue. We thought we knew what we were doing. We did no comps, no research. I don't even think we used a decent broker. We just used somebody that somebody knew through somebody. We didn't have a clue what we were doing. We just got it and we sort of muddled through. We did a bit of research in getting your gas safety certs, giving them the right to rent, EPC, things like that, tenancy agreement. We put all that in place so it was like legal. We didn't do checks, to be honest. 6 monthly checks, 3 monthly checks, whatever checks. We didn't do anything because we heavily vetted the tenants through Facebook, and that's another tip I'll definitely give anybody. It's all right getting a credit reference. I credited a tenant leaving this property, and all it literally was a text message, and it said the name, did they live in your premises, and whether rent's up to date, yes or no, and that was it. I know that's a reference, but it's not a good enough reference in my eyes. What my wife did, we advertised it on Facebook Marketplace, which was absolutely inundated with people that wanted to rent it. And we then had the profile so we could see, oh, last Saturday night they were out down bloody Redcar, pissed out their brain, smashing shop windows. Right, we don't want them. And you can vet them through the Facebook profile massively. Then you've got the mutual friends who you know, who know them, or a mutual friend of a mutual friend of a mutual friend. So you can get references through the network of Facebook and use it, not against them, but to verify, qualify, and see basically who you're letting into your house. It's obviously not a gauge on their financial situation or any guarantee that they're going to be a good tenant, but it's just another tool that you can use moving forward in getting a bit more of a personal character reference almost of the person, and everything. They won't have been doing their Facebook profile thinking about, oh, my landlord's going to look at that. I know some people do now because bosses started looking at them a lot of years ago, but either way, it's a good insight into their personal life and basically the personality of who they are and what the morals are. And that's a good thing you sort of need to think of when you're letting property out. You want the kind of people in your properties that are a bit like you. not exactly like you because everybody's different, but that have the same qualities, that are going to look after it, they're going to take care of it, they're going to have the friends round and have nice nights in and stuff. Obviously people want to enjoy themselves, but you don't want them disregarding it and disrespecting it. You want them to look after it, kind of thing. Essentially, it's you have to come in and put all the pieces back together if it gets wrecked. Obviously I'm not telling you how to suck eggs, but basically we did everything wrong with his property, absolutely everything wrong, no research, jumped in, head first, deep end, as we always used to, and it hadn't turned out that bad, to be honest. Yeah, it could have had damp, yeah, it could have had this, but you generally, even if you don't know what you're looking for, you generally get a feeling looking around the property, I just have a real bad feeling, or I didn't like this, or I didn't like that, or would I live there? They aren't necessarily the best things to be looking at when you're looking at the property as an investor. But the good gauges on, if you're starting out, if you would live there, what you think of it, you'll get a feeling for the house and you'll know whether you would live there, you would buy it, because you're putting your money into it and you want to know if that's worth it, and you use your gut kind of thing to a certain degree. So if you think to get into property, don't feel like you don't know what you're doing and you have to do 10 grand's worth of training. And yeah, you probably do if you want to scale it, if you want to become real successful and to be profitable. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's good just getting an asset and parking a bit of money and having the appreciation. And as long as the tenants aren't absolute nightmares, but you could always put it with a management agency, you're going to have a little bit of cash flow. They're paying the mortgage, they're paying their rent, which covers the mortgage and your expenses, plus a little bit, and you get capital appreciation. Somewhere down the line, you'll be able to refi, sell it, move it on to an investor, or even the tenant might want to buy it, and you'll get a good payout from it at the end of the day. Property is a massively good investment, and don't feel like you can't get into it just because you don't know what you're doing. Sometimes learning on the job's the best way to do it. At the end of the day, if you had a Ferrari or a Lamborghini and you had somebody who was been through Lamborghini college for 10 years and he was absolutely shit hot and he laced all his tests and everything, but he'd never touched a spanner or a car in his life, or somebody that had been in the workshop for even half that time, 5 years, working on Lamborghinis and Ferraris his whole time in the business, who would you rather work on your car? You'd probably rather have the experienced guy because he's had skin in the game. And it's a bit like the property game. Sometimes you're better off just getting involved and getting amongst it, and you'll learn along the way. You can add training as it goes on, and you'll have made mistakes, and you'll know when people say things, I did it the wrong way, and don't beat yourself up about it, because that's what happens and that's how you learn. Training and education is to shortcut and leapfrog the mistakes that you might make in the future. But it's not a bad thing to make mistakes. Don't let society make you think that you're a failure because you've effed up somewhere. It's not the case. You make mistakes to get on in life, to be successful. And that's what success is measured in. Success is measured in the mistakes and the problems that you've overcame, not in the problems that you've avoided and never gone in and faced head on, because that's not what makes you successful. What makes you successful is getting over problems and getting on in life and getting somewhere in life and doing some stuff. So get stuck in.